Good evening, everybody, and welcome to once again to another beautiful episode of Pont de Politique. Umthungo uyengwayo Malinge, Undima kaNkumbuzo welcomes you once again on this wonderful Sunday. It is the month of June, and it is called the Youth Month. And before we start, you are invited to please follow us on our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter pages. On YouTube, we are on Pont de Politique, Facebook, Pont de Politique, and also on Twitter, Pont de Politique. There by YouTube, look at this and make sure that you subscribe and further subscribe. Go and tell your friends that they tell their friends that Umthungo Malinge is welcoming everybody into this wonderful, wonderful platform. Guys, we are aware that in South Africa, the month of June is regarded as the month of youth. It is the Youth Month. And today we are also going to be discussing, therefore, something that relates to this particular month. But I think it's a topic that most people are not engaging on it that much. And and I welcome all of you to be part of this discussion. Those that are watching with us on Twitter, those that are watching with us on Facebook, and those that are watching with us on YouTube. Continue to follow us, continue to watch with us. And I'm asking you that you participate in this discussion because this should be an interaction, conversation. I want us to all interact amongst ourselves. But the main question that I want to ask, and I'm smiling about this question because I am asking this question because honestly, guys, do you believe that a 35-year-old person, or maybe let me start it here, do you believe that a person between the ages of 30 and 35 can be therefore regarded as a young person, as a youth? Because the real reason around this question is because most of the time in our country, no, in our continent, we are finding that there is this overemphasis that says, no, young people, this is Youth Month, young people, young people. And I always ask myself, do they really think about young people in the categories of what is currently being understood as young people? Like in the case of, it says in South Africa, young people's age or youth age, is up until 35. Now, let us be honest. I'm asking this question up front. Do you believe that you are a young person if you are in the age of 30 up until 35? If you believe so, you can send me your comment and give me your reason why you are saying you are a youth. You believe to be regarded as a youth. Because for me, there's something wrong with that thinking. But I'm going to raise the questions, my arguments around this issue. So as we are engaging, as we are conversing, you are welcome to submit your comments. You are welcome to submit your questions as the discussion is going, because it will help us to further understand where we are going. All my notes are in my phone, so I'll be looking most of the time in my phone to make sure that I'm able to use proper notes and I don't say things that are not properly and well researched. Let us begin here. The South African population is approximately 60.1 million currently, and between that population, the continent itself the African continent has about 1.3 billion people. And in the case of South Africa, the people in the ages of 0 to 19 years, it gives us about 21.94 million. So between the ages of between the ages of 0 and 19, we've got about 21 or 22 million, if I were to put it like that. Now, between the ages of 20 and 24, there are about 4.7 million. So in the ages of 20 to 24, it is about 4.7 million people. While between the ages of 25 and 29, we've got about 5.4 million people. So in the ages of 20 to 24, 4.8. In the ages of 25 to 29, we've got 5.4. And in contrast with the people who are aged between ages 50 and 80, in total, they make about 5.5 million. So look at these statistics properly. And because they build up to what I want you to understand. And you will notice that majority of the argument that we are going to be advancing will talk to political sphere. And this is because this platform entirely deals with the issues of politics. We welcome Uthembi Ntsiye there, and she says we are within watching, and she's sending an emoji of a laugh there. Now, welcome you, Thembi, and everybody else. Now, between the ages, as I'm continuing, between the ages of 35 and 49 years, we've got about 12 million people. Now, then the last category of what I want to show to you is that between the ages of 20 and 34, ages of 20 and 34, the total number of those people is 15.7. So 15.7. So the largest population, or the largest number of people in South Africa currently, is those who are between the ages of 0 to 19. Then the second largest is those that are between the ages of 20 to 24. And then in totality, if you look at these, combine these two numbers of 0 to 34 years, you've got about 37%, 37 million out of the 60 million people that is the population of South Africa. Between the ages of 0 to 34, we've got 37.6 million people, making them the largest population in South Africa. You will notice what I said earlier. I said 19 and below, 21 million. 20 and 24, 4.8 million. 25 and 29, 5.4 million. And now I'm saying between the ages of 20 and 34, they are 15.6 million, and they make the largest if you look at it from that perspective. But from 0 to 34, we've got 37.6 million people. Now, on top of these statistics, those that are eligible to vote in South Africa, who are between the ages of 18 and 29, they are about 11.8 million. So eligible voters between the ages of 18 and 29, they are 11.8 million, meaning that they constitute about 35% of voters. 35% of the voters in South Africa, they are constituted by people who are around the ages 18 to 29. Now, in Ghana, which is one former or a neo-colonial state that was colonized by Britain, it has got over 65% of eligible voters who are between the ages of 18 and 29. And then if you look at the median age of South Africa, so the median age is the age where it gives the divide between the two ages, the average age of people in South Africa is 27 years. That is that is according to the heteronormativity genders. So if I say between males and females, you've got about people who the average age is 27 in South Africa. But the average age in the continent is 19. Now, the continent in totality, 19, but in South Africa, the average age is 27 across those gender binaries, which is male and female. Now we put that to the side. Now, the average age of an African head of state or the president in the African continent, it is 66 years. And the average number of people who are between the ages of 66 in South Africa, between 66 and 79, they are about 100,000. Those people are about 100,000. So majority of presidents of the African continent, they are only extracted from the 100,000 that is available. Is it? No. Yeah. So it's about 1 million. Sorry, it's about 1 million. So that's those people who are majority presidents. They are the minority when it comes to the population of the continent. And then the last part that I want to talk to is the life expectancy. The life expectancy of the African continent is 50 years. So if a person lives in Africa currently, the life expectancy of them is about 50 years in the greater African continent. But in South Africa, the life expectancy is about 57. So if you look at these statistics, it shows you clearly that, one, the largest number of people in the African continent, that includes South Africa, they are below the ages of 35. But the most people whom we have in the African continent, they are below the age 30. And those people constitute the largest number of people, but also constitute the people who still have more life to live in the continent, nor in Africa as a whole. So if you look at this life expectancy, let's say now you are 35, you are still regarded as a youth. If things go according to the statistics that we are currently understanding about life expectancy, you are about 15 years left to live if things go according to that. And you are young, you are youth, whether you are youthful or not. So you've got about 15 more years to live if things go according to the statistics. Now, if that is the case, this is now me moving. If that is the case, saying that as a 35-year-old or as a 30-year-old who has got about 20 more years to live, and you are participating in politics, whether you are in the youth wing of a political party or you have accepted yourself to be a young person that still needs to be groomed into participating in political discourse, leadership, or otherwise. One would therefore say you've got about, let's say in the maximum, you've got about 20 years to do that. Only if you still accept, you accept yourself that at 30 to 35, you are a young person. Now, I asked the question that what is youth? How can we understand youth or young people? Because the youth, as we understand it today, it emanates from the word young. And does therefore that imply that when you are a youth, are you young? Are you a young person when you are a youth? Just because the name or the word itself that says a youth is derived from young, are you really between the ages of 30 and 35? Are you really a young person from that perspective? So some people were of the view that the level with which youthness or the cutoff year of youthness, it depends on the life expectancy of that particular society or of that particular place. And I think I agree with that. Now, let's say our life expectancy is 55, and we therefore still continue with the process of accepting each other or accepting those that are at the ages of 30 to 35 as young people. It therefore implies that you, between 30 and 35, you only have about 15 years to live and make an impact. If only we would have a life expectancy that was 80 to 85, I'm really of the view that maybe a person who's 30 to 35 would have been young or would have been a youth. But in the case of where we are currently are now, in South Africa and in the African continent, with the highest number of people between the age, I'm going to use young, even though I'm using the word young painstakingly. I don't want to use it, but I want to use it for the purpose of you understanding what I'm talking about. The largest number of people in the continent are young people in the sense that they are below the ages of 35. But the most largest population in the African continent, they are below the ages of 19. So from 19 going downwards. Now, you look at yourself, who is in between the ages of 30 and 35. We start there. You look at yourself and you then say, based on the policy, on the government policy, not only of South African government, but of the African Union's policy of defining young and youth, it revolves around 35 and 25 sometimes. You don't know when do they invoke that 25 years, but it's always around the issue of 35. Look at the young people or the youth organizations in South Africa. You've got the ANC, the cutoff age for being in the youth is 35. You find that in other organizations as well, even though it is not explicit. I think also in the PAC that is the case, and I think also in COPE. I think also in the IFP. Probably also in the Democratic Alliance Freedom Front Plus, majority of them, they use the cutoff year as the end of youthness at that age of 35. And I find that very much problematic. I don't know about you. I find it problematic in this sense. The people who are sponsoring or advancing the policy formulation are the people who are over the age of 35. In South Africa specifically, the people who are advancing and sponsoring the policy formulation that relates to young people 35 and below, are over the age of 35. Now, what do you mean, Mtungwa, when you say that? In 2018, the members of parliament, that means people who are younger than 35, made up of only 6%. That was in 2018. From the whole baboon of parliament in South Africa. And out of that, in 2018, it was the EFF that had the highest number of MPs, of people who were having the ages below 35 years. That is the cutoff age. The ANC, which is the ruling party, which is the one that tends to advance the policies, it had about 0.96% then of people who were 35 and below. Not even 1% then. I'm not sure today, probably now, it would probably be around 2%, hopefully. Now, and to date, I'm not sure what is the number or the percentage, but one thing for sure that we know, in the ministry, that means in the administration of the current president of South Africa, in the ministers, you only have one minister, I think, who is below the age 40, and that is Ronald Lamola. So out of the 20 or 20 plus 1, I think it's 21 ministers that are there in creating and advancing policies that also relate to the largest population in South Africa, you only have one person who's below the age of 40. He's 38, I think. It's Ronald Lamola. Everybody else, it starts from 43 and up until the oldest, which is Pravin Gordhan and Minister Dlamini Zuma, some so-called presidential hopeful. She's 72. Now, with that understanding that the majority of policymakers in South Africa are not even closer to being 35. I'm talking about now those who are making decisions in the ministries, those who are principals of ministries, are put in place to implement policies. There's none of them who is around the age 35 and below. There's none of them who is around the age 29 and below. There's way too far, none of them who would be around the ages of 19 and below. If therefore we understand these statistics that I'm putting across, don't you find it very strange that the policy of having young people, youth definition, being cut off at the age of 35? You know why I'm putting the age 35? I'm putting it because everybody, when they talk about youth, they always say, as long as I have not yet reached the age of 35, I'm still a youth. Abanye bati, they are young adults. And I ask myself about young adults, what do you mean by saying you are a young adult? What type of a thing, if I were to say, is a young adult? I'm like, I don't understand. Would you therefore say Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma at 72, she's an old adult, or she's an adult? I just need somebody who can clarify me on that particular thing. Now, with this background, guys, if you are watching with me and you are listening to this, whether you will watch it later or anytime, make a comment and see how we can look at all of these things and look at ourselves. Let's stop looking at the people. Now I'm speaking because I'm talking as if I'm talking for you who are 35 and below. Look at yourselves and begin to ponder, what is the reason that this policy of youngness, of youthness, continues to remain at the age of 35 as the cutoff? How does that impact on you participating in shaping your future? How does that affect it? For me, I think it affects it in this way. One, our elderly rulers, especially in the African continent, they are so criminally and corruptibly minded to a point that they will say to you, no, you are still young, you are still youthful, remain there go and attend to the issues that relate to young people. That's one element of emotional blackmail. But secondly, they would also say to you that no, you know, Mosa, young, when you are there, you are still young, then you are not wise. We as the elderly are the wiser. So therefore, when you will not understand how to govern, you would not understand how to make sure that the country is run properly. Remember the descriptiveness, the description that they have given to you. If you are in the age of 30 and 35, they have given you a description to say you are young, you are youth. And therefore, by default, look at Sister Nongceba Mhlawuli, for an example. Sister Nongceba Mhlawuli is being distracted, with ANC Youth League politics. Don't you think that Sister Nongceba Mhlawuli would be able to engage better on politics in general? I think she would. The way that Sister Naledi Chirwa is engaging. Just a week ago, or almost a year now, Sister Chirwa has been championing a policy of opening clinics for 24 hours. Yes, that policy proposal was shot down by the parliamentarians, especially those that were relating to the African National Congress. It was shot down. But look at that person of Sister Naledi Chirwa engaging on the politics of the national interest. I'm not saying young people is not politics of the national interest, but I'm just trying to show you that instead of being too fixated on a small aspect of politics, she's able to influence the greater politics of her country, including the governance. Look at her when she was holding to account of Dr. Zweli Mkhize when he was still a minister. Dr. Zweli Mkhize could not hold on to Sister Chirwa because Dr. Zweli Mkhize lacked the energy that Sister Chirwa was having. Instead of looking at yourselves, young people, I'm saying it, as young, do not accept to be only referred to as youth, because that description, it separates you from being part of the greater scheme of things. You are being made to say, no, focus there on that particular call. Don't allow yourself to be in that space, because the elderly, they will come and say to you, like what racism did to us African people. It started by describing us as black, started by describing us as non-beings, and what then it did, it then justified itself from taking our resources, from taking our lands and taking almost whatever you call it. It's the same thing that happens to women. When somebody describes you as you are mine, you are my property, or you are my girlfriend, nobody must tell me anything. That description provides them with an excuse to do you harm, to do you bad, to do you wrong. Because already they start by defining you, describing you, and objectifying in a certain way. So gender-based violence has got a way of starting from that level. I'm the one who's doing things. Nobody can have you. You are mine. And then gender-based violence then begins to show its ugly head. So you must understand that accepting some descriptions might be problematic in the long run. And we have seen this over the course of the political years, that young people, 35 and below, have been made to stand in the periphery of governance, policy formulation, decision making, and participation in how the country is run, because already they have been ascribed an inscription that they are youth. Now let's move to another aspect of this. Let's look at them. How do this then becomes problematic? I said earlier, the largest number of people in the African continent and in South Africa specifically is those that are between the ages of 0 to 19. And in sports, you go to any sports, when they say young people, they mean it ends at 20. Once you are 21, you're no longer participating as a young person in sports. You're not youth now. You're no longer youth. And the youth and teenagers in sports is always regarded as the same. Ne? It's always regarded as the same. Now, why is it that when it comes to politics, when it comes to policy making, policy participation, and policy formulation, why does it have to be that it must be stretched to a level where a person must be 30 to 35? In my thinking, I think the policy as it stands is problematic, and therefore, when you talk about youth and young people between the ages of 30 and 35, I think we are being set up for failure. If you are 30 to 35 years and you regard yourself as youth, especially if you are you want to make a positive contribution to South African politics, and you want to accept that you are a youth, you are setting up yourself to fail. Let me remind you, you were here at some point. Sister Umam Balegambet was engaging members of parliament of the EFF, and she said, you can't talk to me like that because I am old enough to be your mother. True, that is correct. But do you see the trap? Can you see the trap that I was talking about? That the elderly rulers will want to manipulate you when you are engaging on political matters, moral and otherwise. They will want to manipulate you because already they have ascribed you a certain description that, no, when you are young. So when you are young, you must know when to shut up. By being told that you are youth at those ages that I'm talking to, which for me, I feel they are nonsensical. You are being placed into a position where you are told, you must shut up because you don't have the wisdom that we have had. And in addition to this argument that I'm raising, when you look at yourself, where you have 2, 3 children, you've got 2, 3 children, You are married, you've got your own house or your own home. Can you really regard yourself as a youth, or you are a youth parent? Is there something that is called a youth parent? You are attending to school. You are attending to you are attending to university or high school matters at your kids' school, but still you're still accepting to be regarded as youth. How is that? How does that make sense in your view? For me, I would think that we must be careful around these ascriptions that we are being given to. You've got members of parliament, I think I know about 3 or 4. You've got Mr. Zungula of ATM in South Africa. You've got Mr. Ndlozi of the EFF. You've got Mr. Hlengwa, the chairperson of Scopa of Inkatha Freedom Party. And you've got these people there, and all of them, they are below the ages of 35. But these people are leaders in their own right, in their political parties. And what you then see with them is that they are able to stand their ground in developing policy, in holding to account those that are in leadership roles. They are able to say it is not right to move the country into this certain direction. Now, had Hlengwa, had Zungula, had Chirwa accepted the manipulation of being told that no, you are a young person, you are a youth, you can't talk on this, you don't say anything on that. What or where would we be when it comes to accountability? Where would we be if they were accepting that ascription, especially in the political process? My argument here is around the political process. And another dynamic of the manipulation is where you find, especially in the SASSA grant aspect, where people are given grants up until the ages of 35. I know the socioeconomic relations of our country. I know that capitalism is chowing employment. I know that our elderly rulers, whom have majority of them are above the ages of 40, is not interested in making sure that the country or young people below the ages of 35 are able to participate meaningfully, not only in the economy, but also in the political parties that they are in. They're making sure that, because they don't have the energy. They just want to manipulate you and want you to stick to that element of being youth. You've got in political parties like the PAC, the deputy president of the PAC, he's below the age of 35. He's participating in the organizational processes. And would you therefore say that person who sits in the presidency, you want them to be regarded as youth? Why do you want them to be regarded as youth? Is it because you want to close them down? They must not speak on certain things because they are young. They are this and they are that. This very same thing that is happening to you people who are between the ages of 30 going down. I mean, between the ages of 35 and 30 mainly, who accept this problematic narrative of being young leaders, youthful leaders, and so on and so forth. You run the risk of being taken for granted, like what the French president did to Thomas Sankara when Sankara was raising a moral question in the United Nations. He said, the French president, to Thomas Sankara, no, it is because he's still young. He doesn't understand what it means to be a president. And Sankara, in 3 years, changed the course of Burkina Faso. He didn't accept that nonsense of being ascribed a certain definition. He didn't accept all of that nonsense. And I'm therefore saying, by allowing this policy in the African continent and in South Africa, to be specific, of having young people being referred to young people who are around the ages of 30 to 35. This is contradictory. To have us referring to you who are in the ages of 30 to 35 as young people, I think it is manipulative. And another problem now, what then this does is that you become therefore the cannon fodders. You become the people who are voting for the very same elderly rulers, because they are making you nothing but voting cows. This happened in Kenya over the course of the years. Young people would always be mobilized for the purposes of voting. After voting, they are discarded. It happens in South Africa as well. And Uzolani Zonyane is agreeing with the problem of this youthness. And he says the set standard on who constitutes youth was to institutionalize gatekeeping and to marginalize young people in positions of leadership at higher level. I agree with him. You need to come up with your own. You need to come up with your own standard of what constitutes a youth. This is what I'm saying with this topic. Do not allow yourself to be regarded as a young person or youth at 35. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. I saw a Twitter thread that was going through this afternoon, and it was talking about Ayabonga Chao, and there are other names that have been presented in that Twitter thread, but they were talking about Ayabonga Chao. Ayabonga Chao is 31, and Ayabonga Chao has written a book. Ayabonga Chao is a lecturer. Ayabonga Chao is serving in some of the committees of the presidents. And Ayabonga Chao has participated in a lot of social activism. Ayabonga Chao, for you to say that no, he's a young leader, I think that you want to isolate Ayabonga Chao from the greater participation of making and changing things in our country. This is not only about him, but I'm using him as an example of, if you allow yourselves to be manipulated by these old rulers as young people, you are going to suffer the consequences as you are currently suffering now. You are currently suffering because I said there's only one person who's below the age of 40 in the ministers of South Africa, even though the South African population has got the largest number of people who are between the age 0 to 19. The second largest is those that are between the age of 20 to 29. You are going to continue to suffer. Now, what you need to do, you need to have or set up your own agenda. In policy formulation, I know that there's a process where they say it's a setting up of an agenda. Young people must set up their own agenda. Do not allow these elderly rulers to set up an agenda for you. And two, do not allow for these elderly rulers to define for you what it means to be youth and what it means to be young, because they will manipulate that process like they are currently doing. They will manipulate it and make sure that you do not participate in positions of leadership. If you think that I'm lying, what is it that Ayabonga Kawe cannot do as a minister, or an Ayabonga Kawe cannot do as a minister of economic development or finance? What is it that he cannot do that the old Google and Quint is doing? What is it? And you need to be careful about these things and these ascriptions, guys. I'm raising this because you are in what is called a youth month. So you need to start up and engage on these things seriously. Now, with the policy set, as I say, what would you say is youth within the political space and in the general public? So he wants me to give a solution. For me, I would say that youth must end only at the age of 27. And that must be also revised to even go to the age of 25 if it means so. But young people must define for it themselves, because you cannot have in one sector of sports where you have youth ending at 20, and then in politics you have youth ending at 35, and then you have a number of head of states that are on average 66, when you have the population of the continent being young between the ages of 0 to 19. It doesn't make sense. So I would say, as a start, maybe the cutoff year must be somewhere around 27. But what would be your proposal? Mangaliso, what would be your proposal? Zolan, what would be your proposal? And anybody else, let's further take this conversation in all our small corners. What would be your thinking of the cutoff year of what is called youth in the policy of the government of South Africa, and also in the policy of the African Union and the continent as a whole? Now, the adverse problem of all of what we're talking about now is that at the end of the day, the very same youthful population of the African continent is the very same youthful population that votes for these elders. How nonsensical is that for you guys as young people? You need to have a radical and revolutionary thinking when you think about your lives. You are the future. You are the ones who are going to remain with this country and with this continent. And if you continue to vote in these criminals, these elderly rulers, you might wake up when you are 36 with no country. You might wake up when you are 37. Now, when you finally have accepted that you are an adult, you are a leader of society, you will find out that you have no country to lead. You will find out you have no continent to lead, because you have accepted this nonsensical thinking. Young people are the majority, and they must have their own understanding, and they must have their own ascription on themselves. In one of the episodes that I was doing here, you must go back and go and watch some of the episodes that I was talking about. I was talking about political leadership, the other side of politics. I was arguing that young people are not participating in voting. Young people are not participating in politics because they feel like politics as they are not representing of themselves. They don't represent themselves as young people. And for me, this is partially correct, but also on the other side, it is because they have been manipulated so much that they have accepted, but I'm not into politics. You know, when you are not into politics, as a person who is between the ages of 19 and 30, you know what happens? Your presidential hopeful will be 72. Your presidential hopeful will be 66. And that person who has got, who are closer to their either grave retirement or who don't have even an energy to run around, who don't have an energy to even take risks for you. You know what they will do? They will become your president, they will then formulate, and they will go and sell you out. Because Bona, they don't see that the any future. They are not living for any purpose. Is it really correct to say when you are 35 years old, you are still youth? It is a question that you guys must answer. Is it really acceptable that the cutoff year for youth in South Africa should be 35? Some people say that at 35, if all things go well, you're supposed to be having your last born child. Those who want to have children and those that have children. It says that you are supposed to be having your last born child. Imagine you've got, let's paint this scenario. You have had 3 children already, and you are 33. You've got, you are looking for a last born child. And your child, whom you probably might have had when you were 21, is around about 14 to 16 years. They are teenagers. They are part of the political process or the political party youth structure that you are also part of. How are you going to engage their interests? So should they must stop and say, "Hi, Mama, Mama and Ted"? How are they going? Yimatata and Ted. How are they going? How would you have a change in society when you are like that? How are you going to have those elements? So it is my view that at 35, or let's say it is my view that at 30, up until 35, I really think you are not young, you are not youth, you are not youth. You are ascribed because of the policy. And that policy is not beneficial to you. And if that policy is not beneficial to you, what do you do about it? If that policy is not helping you make a difference, not only in your country, but also in your community, not only in your community, but also in your place of school, in the society in general. If those things are not happening, you are unable to be participating as a meaningful leader. Because when you are seen as youth, how is it going to help you to continue with that type of a policy? I'm therefore asking those that are watching, those that are here with Ponder Politique on this discussion, ponder on this thinking, ponder on this understanding, ponder on this policy that youth ends at 35. I really think that if we can propose that youth ends at 27, and maybe even take it further, radically so, to 25, I think the majority of things will be pushed better by people who are already doing great things as leaders, but because they have been ascribed a certain way or a certain identity, Therefore, they are unable to break that roof to become leaders. Look at the ruling ANC. It's been Maqheko, Kazi, one moment and the other. Look at the another liberation movement, the PAC. It's been Maqheko, and Maqheko. Look at what you call the Congress of the People. Sanada Maqheko, Action SA. Sanada Maqheko. And we are happy that we see with the EFF a group of young people who are not ascribing to the nonsenses of these old rulers. And we are happy to see that even the members of parliament, because the members of parliament of the economic freedom fighters do not subscribe to that nonsense of being manipulated as youth. That is what the society, that is what you young people, because you are the majority, you are the ones that are supposed to be beginning to fight, or on your own, for your own country, for your own future, for your own continent. People who are old, they are not going to do that. They don't have the energy. They don't even have the mind to think around the fact that they must revolutionize the policies. Have you seen them when they are in these Zoom meetings? Have you seen them? Have you seen what they do? Some of them, they even get so closer to that because they don't even understand technology, the majority of them. Have you seen what they do? The type of policies that they come up with. Look at the Ministry of Finance. Just now. There's a problem of petrol, fuel hikes, and so on and so forth. The best they could do was to say, no, we are cutting the levy of R1.50 for the next 2 months or 3 months. Is that all you can think of? Is that all you can think of when you're dealing with the crisis of fuel? Matata, this is a bad way of thinking. It is because you have allowed yourselves as young people to be led by these older people and define what it means to be youth accordingly and according to them, and they are gatekeeping, as Zolani has said. So, my proposal, this is my proposal. The policy must be changed to say that the cutoff year or the cutoff age of youth is 27, and it can be further revised to 25. Two, I also say that young people must participate in politics and they must vote. I'm saying young people now because that is the language that is accepted. And they must participate and vote for the people that they want to lead their country, continent tomorrow and the day after. Three, young people, I'm saying young people again, don't allow yourselves to be manipulated by these elderly rulers who are in South Africa and in the continent, because they are manipulating you by saying you are young, you are unwise, and therefore you are unable to make policies and decisions for yourselves and for your future. They are lying through their teeth. Four, I propose that you stop allowing yourselves as young people to be used for political expediency by these old people. These old rulers have got no interest but interest for themselves. Five, go and understand the policy formulation process. Participate in political structures and make sure that you are ascribing yourself what you want to be. And stop taking the foolishness of being 35 and 34, 33, 32, and 30 as youth. That is nonsense. If you feel like you are youth, it's okay. If you are young at heart, it is your own thing. If you say, I feel like I'm young or I'm youthful and we are not adulting, and all those other things, when it comes to policy formulation, be careful of those ascriptions because the elders will want to use that as a manipulating tool against what you are expected to be to be. So these are my thoughts, and these thoughts I'm proposing them because we are in what is called a youth month. Now, because we are in what is called a youth month, we are going to be commemorating the student uprising, and because we are going to be commemorating the student uprising, some people say Soweto student uprising. And I'm saying it's student uprising because it was not only the students of Soweto who were part of the uprising. By the way, so I'm teaching you that there were students that were in Atteridgeville. There were students that were in locations in the Eastern Cape. There were students that were in other areas in Kwalanga, Ekapa, and so on and so forth. So you must be radically thinking about these things. Start now. Start by thinking radically before you can do radical things. You see, Uzolani now is proposing that the youth must end between the ages of 22 to 24. Yeah, it's a conversation that must be there. It's a conversation that must be taken further. I accept any proposal. 22 to 24, the society must decide. Young people must decide, so that that can, he says, but only if we influence our basic education to produce learners who are actively participants and innovative in addressing the socio-economic ills we are currently facing. Well, that's beautiful, Zola. And I think that therefore drives the radicalness of changing our society. Because if you change that policy of youth to what you are talking about, it therefore cascades down to another matter that Zolani is proposing. So you see what it means to think around and the changing of this age limit. I don't know whether I'm correct to say age limit, but you see what it does. It provides us with an opportunity to therefore cascade it to other matters as well. So you young people, think about these things, engage on these matters, engage on these topics, but most importantly, and I'm begging you, do not allow yourselves to be manipulated by older rulers or by elderly rulers, because they seem to not have the energy, the interest, and the zeal to make sure that the future or the country is available in the future. We've seen what the likes, and I'm still going back to this moment of Sister Chir, of proposing the 24-hour opening of clinics. That was a revolutionary thinking. That's a revolutionary thought. And old people will never think like that, because you know why? They want to sleep at night. They think that, well, no, it's not an important thing, because over the years, it has always been accepted that, what do you call this? Over the years, that a clinic must only open between 7:30 and 4 o'clock. So think about these things, and do not allow, I'm saying it again, do not allow yourselves to be manipulated by older people, because they do not have an interest for you at heart. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for liking this episode, and please share it with other people as well. The content of today was mostly wanting to engage you around the issues of political processes. Political participation, sorry. I might have not touched on some of the social issues that you might have been interested in, but what was an important thing was that I want you to have I want to plant in your mind as young people, I want to plant in your mind that between the ages of 30 and 35, I really don't think it is fair to be referred to as youth, because the elderly rulers will manipulate you in that. And two, I want to plant in your mind that you are the largest number of people in South Africa and in the continent, and therefore you can make things happen. And thirdly, participate in political processes in policy formulation, because the people who are currently doing and setting the agenda for policy are very old, they are very elderly, and they don't have the energy to revolutionary change your circumstances and your life. And let me make this final announcement. Between the upcoming week, Pon de Politique is going to strive to have young people hosting or guesting into the platform. And I mean young people way below 30. So for the next three weekends, next 3 Sundays, we are going to strive to have young people way below 30 to be part and parcel of hosting and being guests of Pon de Politique. If you are interested in being one of them, please send us a message or a comment in our social media platforms so that we can be able to make contact with you. And we want to prove this, and we want to say, instead of talking about it, let us do it. Let us allow young people to be part and parcel of defining what it means to be young, defining the policy approach, defining the discourse, defining everything that revolves around, and defining their future. Because if we do not do that, and if we don't start somewhere, we are going to suffer the consequences. We are going to constantly suffer the consequences. Lastly, I said the largest number of people who are eligible to vote in South Africa, they are the youth between the ages 18 and 29. They are the largest number. Stop sitting on your laurels when there's votes, when there's by-elections, when there's local government elections, or when there's something that is taking place regarding elections. Stop sitting on your laurels. You are going to cause havoc for your future and for your life. It is uncalled for and it is unnecessary. Umtungwa, Malingi, undima unkumbuzo, uyengwayo kamasikani, uyalibulela lithuba lokuba nibe kunye nami namhlanje. And I thank you very much for taking the time to make sure that you are watching and listening to my ideas. Can you further take these ideas and take them forward? Egameni lo Nkomoshi, lo Malingi, lo Ndima lo Nkumbuzo ndithi kuni siyabulela nisale kakuhle. We'll see you next time.